For this large interchangeable home sign, we're going to need several of these 12-inch popsicle sticks. And we're going to need to nip the tip right off the top of these suckers so they look like this. Next, you're going to want to take a minute and arrange the popsicle sticks out to spell H, M, and E. And then you're going to want to take one or two of the popsicle sticks and cut the interjunction pieces. I guess that's what you would call them, interjoining pieces that go in between the letters to actually spell them out. And in case you're wondering what the measurements are, I measured with love. I eyeballed it and rolled on. I grabbed some paint colors, 3 different colors to be exact, and did each letter a different color. I'm going to use some quick and thick Type-On for a long hold and some hot glue for a quick hold. But first up, I wanted to take a minute and just kind of mess around with the pieces, making sure they were in the exact spots I wanted them before I started gluing everything down. Because, you know, once you got them suckers on there, you are not going to be able to pull them back off and recenter anything unless you completely screw the whole piece up. And people, you can absolutely pop some staples in here. Use whatever you would like to join all your little bits and pieces together. I also encourage you to mess around with the pieces and create whatever shape of your M or your E or your H that you would like to see in your home with your decor. As I was creating this, even though you'll see that in my version, I did not add any, I wanted to give you the inspiration for at home. Where each one of the little connecting points are, these would look super cute if you had some buttons, maybe some half beads, and put on there. You could paint them whatever color you think makes sense for the entire piece to kind of match together. Wrap some fairy lights around each individual letter. There is a lot of ways you could get really creative because this is such a large piece. And when you see the thing that we're going to be using for the O, you'll understand exactly why. Look at this basket from Dollar Tree. I love these baskets. I'm really into these baskets right now from Dollar Tree. I know, a basket, Brandy, really, hear me out. Listen, if you choose to, feel free to use as much floral wire and floral foam and glue everything down as you want to. You're going to see here in my example that I didn't glue or use floral wire in anything, and you can change this out as often as you want. Even if you use floral wire, you could still change the pieces out. Now, instead of completely filling our O up with the greenery, I'm actually just taking it and going around the outside. This is so I can use the same greenery all year long if I want to, and just change out the little pieces that we are putting in the center, whether it's for a change of decor in the home or the season. For this decorative magnet idea, we're going to be using a couple little pieces of these 21-inch ruler sticks. They're paint sticks, really, in my opinion. They're shaped like paint stick. Listen, call it ruler stick. It's paint stick to me. For our demonstration today, I'm just going to be using 2 little pieces that I cut down, and they're not the same size. I did share the measurements here in case you want to create the same exact size I did. You can actually get a lot of these little decorative magnets out of one ruler stick. You are going to need some magnets. I just picked these up off Amazon. Make sure that they do fit on the back of your wood pieces, so this way you don't have any magnet bits hanging over on your sides. And since I want to decoupage sections of these little sticks, I'm painting it white for a nice background so our design and our little floral piece pop. For the decoupage portion, I'm going to be using my TDS Decoupage Paper. This is tissue paper. It's a little bit thicker than napkin. The name of this print is Large Fancy Stamps and Labels. I'm going to use a little bit of water on a paintbrush to just trim out the little portions of this tissue paper that I want to put on our magnets. And people, feel free to use whatever decoupage paper or napkins that works best for what you're creating in your home, or even reselling these is a really great idea. Little gift ideas. For our medium, I'm going to just use some Mod Podge. And I'm taking that and putting a little bit in each of the corners opposite from each other to put the stamps. And I also trimmed out these little floral pieces, and I'm going to do the same thing and put them in the opposite corners of where I put the stamps. When it was all dry, I grabbed my little finger sander and gave all the excess a little sand. Now, if you notice, there is some disconnect between the paper that we decoupaged and our paint. To adjust that, I like to take a little bit of the same paint we put in the background and tappity tap 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 right on the edge, and then pull it on down with our finger. This gently blends the paper into the paint, and it also doesn't leave a harsh line of the paint over top of the paper. It gives you a really nice smooth blend from one piece to the next, so you can't tell where your decoupage paper ends and your piece begins. Grab you some little tiny pieces of greenery, or cut up little tiny pieces of greenery, some moss, okay, our friend, and some little floral pieces. Just cut out little rectangles or little squares and then glue them in the spot that you didn't put any decoupage. We're going to use some tacky glue and some hot glue to put on top these little floral pieces, so we can then attach all our little bits to these adorable decorative magnets. For these custom knob hangers, we're going to need 3 pieces of these 21-inch ruler sticks. They're paint sticks. Paint sticks. Seriously, don't care what that packaging says. Now, you can make these as big or small as you want, and you'll need to bring on in the drill. And you notice here, I ain't even got the battery. I am perpetrating. You've got the battery in this joint. Make sure you put a drill bit on that sucker that is large enough to drill holes that will fit your bendable gauge wire that we're going to put in here so we can hang from our cabinet knobs. And a little tip, if you're drilling this on your table, it's a good idea to have another piece of wood, or in my case, I'm over here using paint sticks because I'm loaded, underneath of what we're drilling a hole into. This is going to serve 2 purposes. 1, you're not going to put a hole through your table, hopefully. And 2, it's going to stop any split ends on the back. You can, of course, paint your pieces whatever you would like. I'm just using some antique Waverly wax here and letting that dry. Now you can either pick your stencil before or after, or your transfer before or after, completely up to you. I'm going to use this Live, Laugh, and Love. I know it's played out. Listen, it's fitting on here, and I'm inspiring you at home with the idea, okay? You remix this into what works for you. A little tip if you're nervous about your stencil game is to cover up whatever sections of the stencil you don't plan on putting on the piece that you're stenciling. So I just did this as an example for the first one, so this way you could see how super easy it is putting painter's tape over the little word right over top of the love. The bottom section wasn't going to interfere with anything that we were stenciling, so I didn't bother. I'm often asked when I'm stenciling if it matters if I use a paintbrush, if I use a stencil brush, if I use a makeup sponge, a pouncer, a regular sponge. Honestly, people, I personally don't feel it matters much. What does matter is your onload and offload method, and that is how much paint you are keeping on whatever you're using to transfer the stencil onto here. If you have an overloaded amount of paint on your pouncer or your brush, it is going to most likely smoosh underneath the stencil. So it's a good idea to make sure the pouncer, in this case, is pretty dry before you start tappity tapping that sucker on top the stencil. And if you're interested in more stencil tips, I usually keep my how to stencil video down in the description box. Just click that more button underneath the video when you're done watching this one. You can use whatever type of bendable gauge wire that you would like. I honestly have no idea where I purchased this, how long I've had it. It's been in my stash forever. I am finally down to the bare end of it. You're going to want to cut a piece that is just large enough that you can hang this from the knob. There are a couple different ways that you can obviously bend this to have a little design at the end if you would like, or just completely bend it around the back. It's entirely up to you, but I'm going to show you what I do here and you can take it or leave it with your projects. Once I have it bent in all the right sections, I like to leave just enough on the end so I can create a little pigtail spiral with a pair of needle nose pliers. Obviously, the more you leave through the hole, the more of a spiral you'll get, but on these I just wanted a cute little piece, and it does take a little bit of hand grip strength, so just keep that in mind whenever you're creating these. When you're happy with them, you can seal over them if you'd like and hang them on your cabinet knobs. For these large wall sconces, you're going to need 3 21-inch ruler sticks times 2, aka large paint sticks, and some tumbling tower blocks. Now I'm going to paint mine up black, and you can leave yours plain, paint yours whatever color you want. And I do want to tell you that this was really tedious, so I quit, and I'll show you what I did to make my life easier in just a second. I put the paint sticks upside down so the neutral part was faced down to the desk, and then glued 4 popsicle sticks. So this way we had some wood glue and hot glue with something holding all 3 of the pieces together for each one of the lanterns. And then when I flipped them over, I put stripes of our Type Bond wood glue at the top and the bottom. And then I did hot glue in sections, adding on our tumbling tower blocks. If you don't want to use tumbling tower blocks, you could just use another paint stick. No matter what size, it would still get the job done. Or you could just use a solid piece of wood. A piece of trim would work as well, to still give you the same idea for these large wall sconces. Once all the tumbling blocks were in place and they were partially dry, I took my little water bottle and did a couple squirts on each one of the tumbling block sections. Grab my black chalk paint, and look how quick this is, people. Literally, it took me like 2 minutes to paint all the other 3 stripes of tumbling tower blocks. For our hooks, I'm going to use these little command strip joints from Dollar Tree. They're super easy to apply on, and they actually hang things and hold on pretty well. They have them in different colors, but I happen to have the clear ones, and I usually just take some chalk paint and paint over them so they match whatever I'm using them for. Obviously, use whatever hooks you would like. Take this idea and remix it according to what works best for your decor. I absolutely love how modern these pieces look. As always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. And until next time, bye!